Amythest, thank you so much for coming on the podcast with me today.
Of course, I've been waiting for the opportunity to be on Muscles and Malarkey. You can't see me, but I'm peacocking right now.
We're going to have a great time today. I already know it. We met in the chapter of your life that was the East Coast powerlifting and all that jazz Can you tell me a little bit about how your fitness or like sport background really started?
Yeah. We'll talk about roller derby because roller derby in its own was such a significant chapter in my life. And like as an athlete, I've always wanted to play sports. I grew up roller skating competitively. So,
Wait, say that again?
roller skating competitively. I started going to roller skating rinks when I was 3. So I was roller skating from a very, very young age. And like that was just a thing that we did. And we went all the time. I mean, I would go to the roller skating rink like 3 to 4 times a week. There's like 3 very popular ways to roller skate competitively. One is ice figure skating, there's speed racing, and then the third, less popular or less well known, I should say, is jam skating, which is like breakdancing on skates. And that's what I grew up doing. It's not like a super popular sport, so it's not like there's a whole lot of avenues to compete in, but when you're a kid, it's like enough. And it was fun. I just loved it, like choreographing routines and things like that. I have like this one playlist that I listen to that's like 2000s roller skating jams. I like listen to that when I'm powerlifting and I'm like, God, the shit I did when I was a kid on the roller skating rink.
You need to share that playlist with me because that sounds like my jam. Sounds
Yep.
just like my I stole my sister's 2004 basketball warm-up CD playlist I have on Spotify. It's just so good. The music of that time was so freaking good.
It really was.
It gets the people going. What ended your career as a competitive breakdancing roller skater?
Roller derby was starting, and so the roller skating rink in Portland is like Oaks Park roller skating rink, and like on that same property is like an airplane hangar, and that's where they played roller derby.
What year did you start roller derby?
So I wanted to start when I was a kid. They started up like the kids version of roller derby the year I turned 14 and would have been able to do it. Unfortunately, I also wanted to do a lot of other things like wrestle. I really thought that I would be good at wrestling, so I wanted to wrestle in high school.
Were you good at wrestling? I could see it.
Well, I'm good at wrestling now, but unfortunately, my father didn't believe that women should play full contact sports. So I was not allowed to wrestle and I was not allowed to play roller derby when I was a kid.
So 2008 and your dad's like, I don't believe women should. 2008.
2000, absolutely.
Yeah. It is 2025 and that was in 2008 where you had a parent who was like, nope, women should not participate in contact sports.
Yeah. But basically it just meant that I kept skating in the roller skating rink and doing jam skating for a really long time. And then when I moved out when I was 18 and had to figure out being an adult and putting a roof over my head, it wasn't until I was 20 that I actually started playing roller derby, that I had my shit together enough to go back and like play roller derby because I still wanted to play it.
I hear that. Like, if I hear when people say, like, oh, yeah, I moved out at 18 and I had to be an adult, and I just look at that is amazing to me because you're just such an accomplished person, and
Aww.
people in similar circumstances might have looked at the hand that was dealt them and been like, well, this is too hard. And you were like, wow, this is hard, but I'm going to fucking do it.
Hell yeah. That should be your energy every day because it's all hard. Everything is hard if you like think about it as being hard. Like,
yeah,
I gotta feed myself. I gotta have a roof over my head. So I've been figuring it out for a long time.
You are not a do nothing bitch. And that's what I love about you.
Hell no.
There's so many things I love about you, but that is definitely one of the top things I love about you.
Oh.
You are a bad bitch. You figured things out. You got back into roller derby you got into roller derby, I should say,
Yeah.
at the age of 20.
Mm.
And then what happened?
I showed up to tryouts and I did not know how to play roller derby. I had just been roller skating for the last 17 years and was really good at roller skating. Versus like a lot of people who come into roller derby come in because they're like really excited about roller derby and then they like have to learn how to roller skate to do it. And I just showed up and was like, here I am. I'm a really good skater.
I love that so much. I can't express how much I love that because it's just like you're like, yeah, so I'm not gonna do this the conventional way. So like I can skate real good and I can do flips and shit. Can you teach me how to like right? You guys tackle each other?
No,
There's
you
a
can't
lot of
tackle.
violence.
There is a lot of violence, but you can't tackle. I was very well known for a move called the shark bait or the shark bite. And that was basically I would like if consider yourself roller skating forwards and then suddenly I come up next to you and I'm roller skating backwards and my leg goes in front of you, like my thigh pinches onto your thigh and then the back of my forearm pinches above your butt and I fucking shove you off the track that way. That was the move I was really well known for. Because I'm good at roller skating. So once I figured out the rules of the game, it was just a matter of like, okay, I roller skate like.
Can we pause? I'm sorry. The look that you gave me where you're like, no, we don't tackle. That's ridiculous. And then you describe this move where you literally launch someone off a roller derby track.
I did that once. I got pretty far in like what I got to do as in roller derby, going to tournaments and stuff. And I did this the Texas roller derby team, like I've always really looked up to them and idolized them. And I got to play against them in a playoffs. I will always love and remember and cherish this is that the jammer, who's the person who has the star, they're the ones trying to score the goals or points. I did that and knocked her flat on her ass. She called off the jam. And then when she got up, she gave me a high five and was like, I peed myself.
At this point in time, I think it would be really beneficial. Can you explain the rules of roller derby? Because I clearly have no idea what the fuck it is y'all do, other than it's like in my mind, I'm like, it's kind of like NASCAR. You just keep
Oh
going
my
left.
God.
You just keep going left. I don't know, man. Can you explain roller derby to me?
Yes, I can. There is still banked track roller derby, but it's a completely different game. So I played flat track roller derby. Essentially, you've got like an oval shaped track. You have a bench of players, and there is the full game takes 60 minutes, a like regular timed game, 60 minutes. It's broken up into two halves, but in those halves, you play what are called or what are known as jams. And so jams are up to a maximum of 2 minutes long, but they can be any time less than that as well, which will make sense in a minute. When you play a jam, each team puts 5 players on the track. One player for each one of those teams has a star on their helmet, and they're called the jammer, and they are the ones who score the points for the team. The other 4 people are blockers. So they're playing a mixture of offense or defense, depending on like what play you've gone into wanting to play. Importantly, one of those blockers is wearing a stripe on their hat, which is typically the position that I played, which is called the pivot. And so the pivot is unique because if the jammer, the person with the star, gets stuck, they can take the star off and they can give it to the person who's the pivot. And then they become a blocker and you become the jammer. Jam starts 5 players out on the play. The main objective, the jammers wearing the stars need to get through the pack. The first jammer who passes their hips in front of all of the hips of the opposing players and gets out of the pack first, they become the lead. So when I said that jams can last up to 2 minutes, they get the power to determine when the jam ends at that point. So you've got a lead jammer. This would be special, say like, I'm the jammer, I get out of the pack. I only get halfway around the track, and then you're the opposing jammer, and you also get out of the pack. then it's really advantageous for me to try to score as many points as quickly as I can and then tap my hips and call off the jam so that you can't score any points. You score points by re-entering the pack. So you skate around a lap and you catch up to the back of the pack. And then you have to score a point by passing your hips around the hips of an opposing player.
Another question.
Yeah.
So, like, this is so interesting. Okay. Because I'm visualizing this as you're saying it. You have to go through the pack. You couldn't just be like, oh, hey, here's the group. I'm just going to kind of skirt around the outside to the front.
They're playing defense. So sometimes people do that. Sometimes people are able to like sneakily get up to the pack. You can also do an apex jump because again, you're playing on a oval. So let's say the pack is like up in this rounded corner of the oval and you're approaching it as the jammer. If you have enough trajectory, you can ice princess that shit and jump from inbounds here in front of the pack over here. As long as you land in bounds, you score all of those points.
You literally mean fucking jumping. You literally mean jumping.
I will send you a picture after this. I loved apex jumping. I'd be flying up there. Like, even if you hit me, my hips are so high, your shoulders touching my butt, you're not knocking me out of bounds.
I'm changing your name in my phone.
I mean, this could basically go on to the point, and it does often go on to the point where you have the one jammer who's gotten out of the pack and they are the lead. And then the other jammer is still stuck in the pack. They're on their initial. They can't even score points yet because they're still stuck. There's so many more rules, but there are a lot of things that we are not allowed to do. You can't hit somebody square in their back. You can't knock somebody out below their knees. Like you can't take them out in ways that are really dangerous. Like that is baked into the rules. Of course, there are things that like happen. I mean, I got injured playing roller derby, which is a whole other part of this story, but there's a lot of injuries, but that's not what any of us want, and we definitely are not punching or so even me describing what I was doing, like it's pretty controlled. Yeah, they're falling flat on their ass, but I'm guiding them there.
You're gently caressing them into the ground.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, though. I think that there has to be a level of safety in these higher contact sports. And especially we've seen like with football, with American football, I think people brushed off concussions a
Yes.
lot. And from the pictures that I have seen of you playing roller derby, it looks like you guys have a lot of protective equipment on.
By rules, you have to wear helmet, mouth guard, wrist, elbow, and knee pads. And then some people go a little bit further if they, really need to. Like if they had a chest injury or something, some people can get exceptions. After I tore my ACL, like when I was returning, I had a knee brace to help like correct the stability. And you can play with things like that as well. But I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times you come out of a jam, you take that mouth guard out, right? Because you're like, oh, I can't breathe. And people loop it into their like jersey, and then you go out to start the next jam, and if somebody forgets to like take it off and put it in, like a referee is calling you and you're getting a penalty because you weren't wearing your safety gear. Like they're very strict about that too.
If somebody listening was interested in roller derby, what would you tell them?
Well, I think that there's so many ways for you to get involved with roller derby, even not as a roller skater. So if you think like that sport's so cool, but I couldn't play it, that's fine. Roller derby is a non-profit sport. Everybody who plays it actually pays to play. There's so many positions that you can do, like referees and like announcers, or even just like helping with event staff. And so I think that like just getting involved in any capacity, it's such a great community in so many ways. And you can help in so many ways while you're learning more about the sport and deciding maybe I'll try like buy a pair of roller skates and go see if I can roller skate. So there's just like so many avenues to get involved. So I just say go do it because it's so much fun.
Can it be expensive? Can it be cheap?
It can definitely be expensive if you want to play. My roller skates, they can be upwards of a couple $100, even just like at a base package. And I think that like there's definitely a barrier to entry. But if you happen to be in Portland, and I think a lot of other leagues do this as well, Rose City Rollers, which is in Portland, they actually like started a scholarship program to like help kids who can't afford to get in, and adults as well that can't pay like the dues and participate financially. They have a whole like locker room of gear that you can borrow and check out so that you don't have to make that investment when you're like first starting.
Wow. Okay.
Shout
Well,
out to Rose City Rollers. Love you guys.
shout out to Rose City Rollers. I hope that people listen and they give roller derby a try because that is not something I have any experience with. Clearly, I thought y'all tackled each other.
You and everybody else.
Now, you did make the comment that you had an ACL injury from roller derby. You said that was part of this story. Can you kind of expand on that?
When I started playing, I was 20, and I because I knew how to roller skate and I just had to learn how to play the game, I progressed pretty quickly. You know, you get like drafted into teams basically, and so I had just gotten drafted into a team, which was really really exciting. Which playing roller derby, it was like no fault of anybody's. Just hit somebody really hard and snap went my ACL. It was so audibly loud that people thought that I had broken a bone. I recovered really well because I went to my very first surgeon. He was like, "Do you lift? Like, do you cross train? Do you do anything?" And I was like, "Well, I do like different forms of cardio and do all these." And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to tell you, ACL injuries for female athletes are so common because of the way that your guys's like hips are shaped in comparison to your knees. It's very common for female athletes to tear ACLs without proper cross training." And I didn't know that. These are just things that you're never taught. And then even though I wanted to play sports, I never got that opportunity as a kid. And so once I learned that, then it was like, okay, that unlocked the next piece of my journey.
You were 20 when you started, so that would have been 2014. When did you tear your ACL?
2014.
Oh, so it was in the same year. I didn't realize that. First off, shout out to that doctor because I think a lot of doctors don't look at that whole picture and they're like, well, I can fix this with surgery. And
Ooh.
absolutely, there's some times where, you need to do surgery and that's the way it has to be. But there's also a lot that can be done with physical rehabilitation.
And I did have surgery.
Yes, yes. And my point in saying all that was you made the comment that that was not given to us as an option when we were younger, and I had the same experience. I
Mm-hmm.
was doing I was doing sports that would have benefited from cross training and I did not know what cross training was. I did not understand what cross training was. I'm glad that kids now have that because it's really frustrating looking back and being like, there was a lot of things that we probably like. How many of your classmates, of your female classmates that were soccer players, there was always a girl in whatever grade that had a torn ACL after playing soccer?
Right. Or volleyball, or like literally any of the sports. The cheerleading, like they were
Mhm.
walking around on crutches with ACL, but like looking back, you see it, but you as a kid, you were like not really understanding that there's like a physiological reason. And then you think about like systemically, like women not being allowed into powerlifting spaces.
The 4 years that I was a thrower, I remember, and this is no shade to my coach, he was a great guy, but the boys got taught on a free barbell how to bench, how to squat, how to deadlift. The girls didn't get to learn how to deadlift, and we squatted with the Smith machine and we benched with the Smith machine, and I didn't go all the way down to my chest because it was hard and I didn't know. And
Yeah,
like my squat was probably like not even a quarter of a rep or anything like that. I don't think that we were really given that opportunity, and that
right.
is frustrating.
But yeah, that was just a stepping stone because then I had surgery and then I had to actually start cross training and like get back into being able to play roller derby. So
When you did your cross training after surgery, did that include powerlifting or at what point did you get into powerlifting?
Yeah, so that's like when I started doing any type of strength training, and squatting was one of the first big things that I introduced because obviously I needed to like build up that knee strength and knee stability. I mean, honestly, looking back, I don't know how I did it, but I did feel like it was a healthy recovery, but it was very quick. I had roller skates again on my feet 3 months after I had ACL surgery, and I was playing full contact by 6 months out of ACL surgery. The ACL is literally still in my the fake ACL is still in my knee going strong. I do think that once I learned that puzzle piece, it just made it possible for me to like put together the next steps in a healthy way.
As a therapist, it really makes me happy to hear you say you recognized how hard it was and you were frustrated, but you realized it was frustration that was getting you to a point where you were going to be better.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that sometimes with some of my patients. I can talk to them till I'm blue in the face and explain, the healing times and the processes and like the effort that needs to go in. But I feel that as a society, we're not very health literate and we're very instant gratification. We want to be better yesterday, and that's just not the way it is. The fact that you recovered from an ACL surgery and got on roller skates within 3 months, 12 weeks
Yep.
post-op is
Yep.
insane.
When I think back to that, I'm like, I don't think that I did it too soon. Like I did it with hand in hand with my doctors and with my PT, but it's like it very well could have taken me a year to recover. I mean, like I think that in general, there were plenty of people who got injured playing and then like just never felt like they could get themselves back to where they were playing. And so they like frustratingly just like gave up. I don't know. I don't want to like accuse anybody, but it's like the easier. It really is. It's the easier option to just say like, "Well, I can't do this anymore because I got injured." When I finally stepped away from roller derby, it wasn't because I wanted to. It was because I knew that like my knees couldn't take it anymore. So of course, I picked up powerlifting competitively.
Naturally, where you're trying to lift the heaviest amount of weight possible in the squat, bench, and deadlift,
Yeah.
which all three of those lifts really utilize your legs.
Yeah.
When did you oh, wait a second. Wait a second. We have open powerlifting.
Oh yeah, you're gonna pull up my first meet.
Yeah,
I
you
was
know
still
it.
playing roller derby when I first had my first powerlifting meet in 2019.
How did you get to the point where you thought, I'm going to compete? I want to compete in this.
So 2014 is when I tear my ACL, get back to powerlifting or get back to roller derby. In the meantime, I'm powerlifting on the side for fun. And then in 2017, I met my wife, and my wife is a competitive powerlifter. It was just like really great to have our own sports and have these like things that we were both so passionate about. I learned so much about powerlifting from her. Like we would go on dates when we first started dating just to the gym, and she would teach me how to like do them more competition standard rather than like as cross training, and the things that like she did. And so I supported her through a few meets, and she also just kind of like I don't know, isn't as competitive. She's not an Aries, she's not looking for a fight consistently like I am. We just have different levels of enjoying competitiveness. But I was like, I'm just curious. Like at this point, I was still playing roller derby and was just kind of curious after being in powerlifting around it for a few years in the competitive space for a while. And so I just decided to compete. I was strong, don't get me wrong, but I was not like anywhere near the strength that I am now that I more exclusively power lift. And so I think that like it was just a fun opportunity and it was like a rookie meet. But then again, after that, I didn't compete again. My second meet wasn't until 2023. It was still at that time just kind of a fun side hobby.
Okay, so you did your second meet, which was like the lovely Goddesses of Steel.
Yes, incredible.
Oh my gosh, that was such a fun meet.
It lives rent free in the back of my mind. Every time I hear, man, I feel like a woman.
Let me squat 424 pounds. Actually, I can't remember how much Abby squatted. I've referenced that moment so many times on this
Oh,
podcast. It was just so wonderful to meet so many great people.
that was such a pivotal moment in so many ways. I moved from the West Coast to the East Coast and very 2022, I think. So it was like right before, right? I was like in this moment of needing a lot of community. And like I talked about with roller derby, like community is such an important aspect of that, especially as a queer person. Like I didn't come out of the closet until I was 20. And there's not a coincidence there. It was me playing roller derby and me feeling like I had the community to come out to and the community that would catch me. And I've always been a community person. So moving from the other coast to this coast, leaving all of that behind and transitioning from a team sport, which I've always loved playing with teams, into a very solo driven sport, it was this moment realizing that there was a community there too. Even though we're individuals doing this, there is such a big community that we hold for each other. And that space in particular of being like a women's only meet was so powerful in like creating that space. Even the contrast between my first, which was just a rookie meet, where people are not cheering for each other, like they're cheering for the one person that they came to like support in this rookie meet, versus we're sitting at this meet and everybody is cheering for everybody's attempts. I mean, the power in that room alone, it was so grounding to me to find a new community.
I think that you summarized that so perfectly. I feel that very similarly. When I look at the chapters in my life, that time frame is the start of a new chapter for me. For a couple of reasons. I left my full-time job. I found this group of women that genuinely supported each other
Mm-hmm.
just because we all love strength training and lifting heavy shit. It really warms my heart. Last weekend I went to a powerlifting meet and I hung out with Megs and I got to see my coach and her husband compete on his 35th birthday.
Mm.
And I sat there and I thought to myself, wow, I literally would not have been here if I had not joined that community of people and joined
Right.
a powerlifting team. There is
Yeah.
community in this space.
It's incredible. There's still community in this space, even if you're not competing. It's just like when I was talking about roller derby. If you want to get involved, there's so many ways to get involved. That's the same story for powerlifting. Unfortunately, like where I am, we don't tend to see a whole lot of hosted meets. Otherwise, I'd like to think I would be the type of person who's like helping handle new athletes or run meets, because that's what I did for roller derby as well. But I think that there's just like so many opportunities for community in this sport in various ways, supporting your local gym owners, like supporting meets, supporting your friends. I love traveling to like come to your meets, even when I'm not competing. Like this season, I don't plan on competing at all because I'm instead turning into a cardio queen. It's not like that community's gone. Y'all are still here. Y'all are my friends. I'm still going to come support you. I'm going to cheer on, so it's just, you don't have to be lifting competitively to be a part of it.
This is a great moment to shout out Amythest's handling skills. Because if I'm your favorite handler, Amethyst is your favorite handler's handler.
What an honor.
I'm just
The first time
saying.
you asked me to handle you, I know no shit, like the rest of that day, I was just like, I can't believe Mary wants me. Like I feel so special.
Dude, you took such great care of me for No Luck 4, the best meet I have ever had.
Oh, that was so fun. Even though that was not a women's only meet, but like the energy that was in that crowd. I mean, I think that A speaks volumes to just like the Bear Cave and everything that they've created there, because it's like that was my first time being at the Bear Cave and it was like really incredible and special. The whole crowd, I mean, we were all cheering for each other. It was incredible. It was like goddesses of steel in that energy where we're like
Yes.
yelling and you have a catchphrase and we know that fucking catchphrase, and like you want your back slapped and that's always fucking something that we do for you, you know? And it's like everybody is like cheering and getting each other on. I just like love that energy so much.
It makes me so happy, and that's now I'm just reliving that for a moment. That was so fun. That's why I'm very thankful for the sport of powerlifting and the community that it has. This is one positive of social media, is allowing people to connect with things like powerlifting. I mean, you started powerlifting as a hobby, like cross training, like 2014-ish, which is very new, I think, for women to be getting in and doing barbell training. I got in 2017, and there was still a lot of stuff out there. Like, women weren't really doing powerlifting. It wasn't as
Oh yeah.
common.
Well,
And
if you were working out, you were working out to lose weight.
you were working out to get skinny,
Yeah,
skinty honey.
because Tyra Banks said so.
Because Tyra Banks said that if you weighed over 125 pounds, you were a plus size model.
I'd like to think that that's no longer happening, but that is the reality. And I think even Alana Marr just recently put out a video talking about this of like some people are just supposed to be bigger.
My first episode of this season is talking about how women's body types are not a trend. And I speak on how growing up in the early 2000s, you are just supporting what I'm saying in that episode. And that was the experience
Mm,
of girls, women our age in that time, of seeing skinny, 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 skinny. And
right.
if there is anything positive about social media and having body representation, I do feel that having that body diversity helped me as a person. It sounds like it
Right.
helped you as a
Oh,
person.
absolutely.
I would have benefited to know I'm never going to be 125 pounds. If I were to be 125 pounds, I would look cachectic. I would literally look like I was starving. And how is that good? What health is there in that?
And I remember thinking too, like always being in the back of my mind as a kid of like, oh, well, I used to be a size 7 and I need to get back to a size 7.
That is the reality of someone living in that time. And I fear, and this is something else I talk about in that first episode, is that that pendulum is swinging back
Mm,
to the heroin chic of it all, because we are seeing an uptick in skinny. We are seeing an uptick in fat phobia, in, perpetuating unhealthy and disordered eating. And maybe it's just me and thinking of this, but it's kind of weird how that's falling in line with that pendulum also swinging back to more traditional values and women being in more feminine roles and staying in
mhm,
the kitchen and having
mhm.
babies and not going after a career. Kind of weird how that pendulum falls back over in that skinniness.
I mean, I always think about that because, like, even here on the East Coast, like, here's one thing that's very different. On the West Coast, everybody has tattoos. Okay. Like, I'm talking like visible tattoos, right? When I moved to the East Coast, this was something I noticed. Uh, my tattoos, very unique. I stand out. I got pink hair. I stand out. But I also will be wearing sleeveless shirts to business meetings because I don't give a fuck. Like you're gonna see my tattoos, you're gonna see my muscles. I'm going to take up space. I'm going to be broad shouldered and stand tall. And when I'm sitting on the metro, sorry, I don't know what to tell you, man. Spread over there, like I fit here and I take up my space. Like this is something that I have really had to work on. And I think all of us have had to work on of like, you have to take that space and own that space. And part of that is I'm not going to apologize for being a 200-pound woman, right? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, all I could think about was the fact that I shouldn't weigh this much. It lived rent free in my mind because that was what was told to me is you were supposed to be smaller. Well, I was supposed to be smaller to what? Take up less space, to like stand out less, to be barefoot in the kitchen having babies. Like, why the fuck do I need to be smaller?
My husband can rely and count on me to go and help out in wrangling up loose cattle and
Right.
taking a 1-ton cow head on and not giving a fuck. And you know what? I can't do that if I weigh less than $150. I just want to harp on what you said because I feel so passionately about this. I love having visible muscles as a woman.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is I want any man who looks at me to say, oh, she won't be easy to take down.
Isn't that sad though that that's what we think about? But
I
still, there's
know.
a lot of power to it. But yeah.
It and that's the way I choose to view it through is this lens of power and
Mhm.
where I am like, I can fucking hold my own. You want to try and come at me? Good fucking luck.
Yeah.
Good luck, Godspeed, sending thoughts and prayers. Do not fuck with me. I love that you stand in that power and you own that power and showing up in a space and owning yourself and owning who you are because I truly feel like that is one of the best ways for us to really fight on a micro level of our in our
Mhm.
own worlds of a way to fight and show resistance. You cannot fucking make me small. You cannot dim me down. You cannot put me in a box. I did want to circle back because you made a comment a little earlier about how you're taking a step back from competing this year and you're becoming a cardio girly. And like, what do you mean by that, Amethyst?
I had a lot of fun competing last year. But I was supposed to compete in the spring and then, there was just like a lot of life stuff going on and that didn't work. So I ended up competing in September with my wife, which was so fun because we had never had that opportunity before to compete together at the same time. And of course, we had our favorite handler.
Yeehaw.
It was just so special and so great in so many ways. But it also was a challenging meet for me in terms of I didn't feel comfortable squatting anymore with my ACL. One of the things that always has stuck with me is that they said, like, you've got 10 years. It definitely was having a mental impact on me as my ACL was starting to age. Anytime I would feel knee pain, I was just like really terrified. And I had some bigger goals for my squat. All I wanted was a 300-pound squat. And as I started to work up and like really get up there, I couldn't do it. I really want to do it anymore. I was so terrified that like this ACL was going to snap with 300 pounds on my back and so I made the decision last year to stop squatting. Partly that was easy because I love bench and bench is my baby. And so I was like, I get to bench and I just get to deadlift. I had this moment of realization where powerlifting is hard. Like it is physically hard. As an athlete, you're kind of always in some form of pain, right? Like it's like muscle pain or something else going on, or you like slept wrong. And, it's just like there's so many things that can happen. I was getting to this point where I just felt like my body couldn't tell the difference between like trauma from life and trauma from lifting a large amount of weight. I made the decision that like, okay, I'm going to compete. I'm still going to compete in this September meet. But your coach, I was also working with for many years at that point, and really really loved working with her. But it was just like I don't really know what my next step is. I think that I need some time. Like I need an off season that's not just me powerlifting. I need an off season that's me like doing something else and challenging my body in a new way. And for some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason that became running. But I started sassy treadmill like strutting to Sabrina Carpenter. There's like this one playlist that I would listen to that has two songs that you're supposed to run to. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to try to run to these songs. And then eventually I just kind of figured out like, I actually kind of like this. Like maybe not like this in a way that I'm like gonna be a runner for the rest of my life. I still think of myself as a power lifter, just in a off season right now. In the interim, since September, I've been slowly increasing my cardio while still powerlifting, but doing mostly bench because I just love bench so much. And I love having big muscles, and I'm trying to get my arms to look like yours.
I really have to compliment you here because I think that your mindset in approaching this is so smart. a multitude of levels. Like the therapist side of me loves that you have been progressively, incrementally progressing your cardio from September, and it is now March. That's a long time to stick to something consistently. To me, if I'm giving my professional medical recommendation here or just like insight, it sounds like to me you are doing the best thing to prep your body. You're being very smart about it. Secondarily, I love how you're approaching your fitness journey, because I wish more people understood that at any point in time, you can do anything else. You can get into swimming if you don't want to do powerlifting. You can get into, if you're a marathon runner and you want to become a cyclist, if you are an MMA person and you realize you really like Olympic weightlifting, like at any point in time, if there's something you really want to do and you really want to try, just do it.
Yeah. It's meant to be dynamic.
There is a question, though, that I really enjoy asking people that come on the podcast. I want you to think of a time in which you look back on and you're like, what the heck was I thinking in regards to your lifting or fitness journey?
I think that there's been so many points. The biggest thing by far that I look back and like absolutely cringe about is my fucking ego, man. But there's a difference between my confidence and ego. And that was such a hard lesson that I learned through years of making mistakes because of my ego. That transcends into sports. Girly pop, I've been chasing a 200-pound bench for so long and I still don't have that shit. And I love bench. I don't deserve to get a 200-pound bench because I've been doing it. That's ego. Now I know that difference. And that's why I stand on my shit. I'm confident. But I think that you do have to live through some pretty embarrassing moments with your ego and be able to confront that before you can understand and learn those lessons.
Oof, say it louder for the people in the back. Powerlifting is hard. Training is hard. Running is hard. Choose your hard. And that's something I fall back on, is like, you know what? It's really hard to be consistent in a gym routine sometimes and plan your dinners every week and go grocery shopping and prioritize your protein intake and make sure that you're drinking enough water and you're getting enough sleep and all that stuff. That's hard. It's a lot harder to have serious health complications of things that were preventable. All right, Amythest, thank you again so much for coming on here with me. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, share, rate, and review. It helps the podcast grow and reach more people. Do you have any questions or suggestions? Email me at musclesandmalarkey@gmail.com or find me on Instagram at musclesandmalarkey. Yeehaw and yee-claw, everybody.